This video is to give you a glimpse into the day in the life of an agile business analyst that works for a large corporation. It's important to note that your day-to-day can vary depending on industry, organization, size, project type, development methodology, and team composition. One of the integral things that I do on a regular basis is clarifying and defining problems. Problems usually have two major flavors. Either something is broken or somebody wants something new that the current application doesn't do. If something is broken, then my job is to play detective and figure out what is causing the problem. In my world, most processes require many things essentially to be working correctly for the process to not break. It could be incorrect data coming into my system or my system sending out incorrect data, which might mean a system bug or a process issue. It might require me to do some data analysis work to see where the problem is originating. It might require me to break down all the steps in the process and understand what should be happening and when, and if it's happening like it's supposed to be. And I often work with other teams and other people to help me find the root cause. Once I figure out the root cause, I usually end up going back to the reporter of the problem and let them know we found the reason for the issue and usually some type of path to the solution. Sometimes it's letting them know that they or someone was doing something wrong. Sometimes it's a user story or a requirement to change the system in some way to make sure the problem doesn't happen again. The other type of problem definition is when someone wants a system to do something new. In my case, I work with a transactional system that has to get data from a bunch of different places to start the transaction, use that data to place that transaction, and then send the results of that transaction down to other systems. So, if a business unit wants my system to support a new transaction type for a specific customer group, then I have to work with the customer data team to make sure they can support the data required at a customer level for the transaction. It might be like a new customer attribute, which might also require some kind of process change to make sure that attribute is actually getting populated correctly and with the data they expect. The same might be true for product data, catalogs, and pricing systems. So when all those systems change, then my application also needs to change the interface. So when I get that data, I can actually receive that data and have some place to put it, and also what to do with all that new data and how that transaction now has to change. Likewise, all the systems that use my data for the transaction will also need to be a part of the conversation. Different order types require data to go into different service systems, fulfillment systems, invoicing cycles, etc. And the transactions from my system need to have everything necessary to make sure all that happens correctly. I usually work with the business analysts of those systems, and we all work together to determine all the things that need to change to support this new feature. We all work with our developers, our business stakeholders to determine the data changes, the process changes, as well as the functional changes to our system. This typically happens with interviews and workshops with all the different stakeholders where we essentially create and refine deliverables like process models, data flow diagrams, user stories, etc. We then share that information and models back to all the different stakeholders to make sure we all have a complete and accurate understanding and also agreement on all the things that are going to change from end to end. Now, not every problem or change that comes through impacts the whole end-to-end process in a huge way like this. Sometimes the change only happens in my application or only affects what's coming in and not what's going out, and vice versa. So the scope of analysis work for each new problem that comes in can vary quite a bit. It can be like a couple of hours worth of work, just me documenting a user story, usually from like a single stakeholder, or a couple of days worth of conversations and maybe some data analysis to get to that endpoint, or weeks worth with many teams having to collaborate to get it all done right. In an agile environment for an application like mine, I'm typically working on multiple problems at once at different points in the analysis cycle coming from different stakeholders. For example, an upstream system might need a change in my system for a new process, and a downstream system might need a change for a totally different process in a different user group. Some problems or new needs don't require code changes, just updating some configurations to meet whatever the new thing is. If you were to look at my work calendar, in a typical week, I will have regular meetings with my team to refine user stories that happen essentially every week on a regularly scheduled cadence. I'll have meetings with stakeholders who have new problems for me to dig into. I'll have meetings with subject matter experts who I'm working with to help understand and define, problems I'm working on. And when I'm not in those meetings, I'm either going through the data or documentation or working to create my deliverables like process models, user stories, and etc. to be used by stakeholders and other team members. I hope that helped you understand a little bit more about what a business analyst does. If you found it useful, let me know by giving me a thumbs up. And if you have any additional questions, let me know in the comments and I'll either answer you there or create a whole new video just like this one. So subscribe to see those questions get answered. And thanks for watching.